Hi and welcome to our presentation titled Trade Union and Job Changes in Volatile Times, a Systematic Literature Review and Research Agenda. Our researchers are Azizan bin Morshidi, Ki Isabaraya Btk Mod Yusuf and Muhammad Idris bin Bularat Bahari from University Malaysia Sabah, UMS. The purposes of this systematic literature review are 1. To investigate trade union response towards job changes among employees during volatile times, and 2. To propose future research agenda based on the findings of systematic literature review. We conducted a systematic literature review by referring to relevant criteria from the preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analyses, PRISMA. It consists of the 5 subsections including search strategy, inclusion and exclusion criteria, eligibility, data abstraction and analysis. A systematic search strategy was implemented through 2 electronic databases, which are Google Scholar and Dimensions.ai. The keywords in the titles and abstracts were used in the search process including workplace changes, job changes, workplace changes, work restructured and trade union. This process yielded a result of 9,200 documents from Google Scholar and documents from Dimensions.ai databases were retrieved. The first criterion for inclusion concerned a timeline, and a period of 10 years, between the years of 2010 to 2020 was selected. The second inclusion criterion was document types, journal, research articles, with empirical data as primary sources were selected. The third inclusion was articles published in the field of social science, as well as business and management were selected to increase possibility of retrieving related articles. The fourth inclusion was regarding on region, where all countries was selected in this review. The fifth was focusing on articles published in English language. The final inclusion was including the selection of sample involving the respondent trade union. Meanwhile, the exclusion criteria were systematic review, meta-analysis, chapter and book, review papers, non-research papers, non-English and samples other than the trade union as stated in Table 1. Overall, a total of 6,038 articles were excluded based on these criteria, as stated in Figure 1. After the identification process, out of 6,596 documents to be screened, 558 documents were retained for the next stage. A total of 548 articles were prepared for the third stage known as the eligibility. Eligibility is a process that includes or excludes manually according to the author's specific criteria. At this stage, the titles, abstracts and the main contents of all the articles were examined thoroughly to ensure that they fulfilled the inclusion criteria and fit to be employed in the present study to achieve the objective of the current research. Before the eligibility process was carried out, the duplicated documents were removed first. A total of 4 articles were traced as similar articles were excluded in both databases for the next phase. Finally, a total of 548 remaining articles are ready to be analyzed. The remaining articles were evaluated, reviewed and analyzed after the eligibility process. The data were extracted to identify relevant themes and sub-themes for the present study by reading titles, abstracts and then throughout the full text of articles, in depth. During the review process, answers were sought by the following: A. The research design, B. The response of trade union, C. The way to solve job changes, D. The sample selection and E. Study region. From the search described above, 548 articles were identified. Then, 538 articles were excluded due to the fact that they did not relate or did not focus on trade unions' response towards job changes, were not empirical articles or did not focus on the factor of job changes. The main systematic literature review findings are the following 10 articles. Based on the main findings, 3 major points to be discussed are: 1. Response towards job changes factors during volatile times. 2. Crisis of representativeness of workplace representatives, and 3. The organizational role played by trade union leaders. Therefore, in the future, the following research agenda can be focused, namely: 1. Further research into two theoretical approaches of trade union and job changes during uncertain times such as pandemic COVID-19 crisis. 2. Appropriate operationalization and examination of trade union response, reaction and strategy in facing uncertain job changes and workplace restructuring during the volatile times. 3. Future research should establish the comparability of studies with regard to potential confounding variables. 4. Necessity to improve the selection and operationalization of research variables, and lastly, improvement of further research shall refer to employed comparison standards between developing and developed countries in terms of their trade unions' response, especially. In a nutshell, there are several main findings about union response reflects the fact that jobs more likely to be unionized have inherently uncertain working arrangement or conditions. Hence, there also provide the current most information analysis and some external pressure on policymakers to take action on issues of workplace changes among employees, which is it kind of a full-service approach, integrating analysis, advocacy, communications, outreach and constituency engagement try to get job done. This is also gaining a better understanding regarding the cost-benefit balance of workplace changes that may be particularly valuable for innovation-oriented organizations that implement workplace changes on employees. About job changes, acknowledgement. The authors thank University Malaysia Sabah, UMS, for valuable help in the research and publication process. This research was conducted within the larger project funding of UMS Internal Research Grant SDN 0077-2019.